WCNC TV Charlotte. This is Flashpoint, where power and politics collide and the tough questions get asked and answered.
Happy Sunday. Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. Joining me today, Charlotte City Councilman Tark Bakari, State Representative Wesley Harris, and 10th Congressional District GOP Chairman Brad Overcash. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to be here. Yeah.
Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles, officially a candidate for re-election, the first African-American woman to be elected mayor, filed for a second term this past week. She tells us that her priorities are going to be affordable housing, which we talk about on the program quite frequently, as well as the climbing number of homicides here in Charlotte.
We can't afford to have the losses that we have without impacting the people in this community and their confidence in what's being done.
Currently, there are two other lesser-known candidates running as well at this point. That may change, but Tark, I'll begin with you. Why do you think there's the lack of opposition to her so far?
Well, I mean, it's not surprising when you think about how the last decade has gone in the city. You've had serious mayoral candidates from the Republican side going up against the Democrat mayor, raised significant amounts of money. One can argue, you know, would they have done a little different in their strategies? Maybe, but not materially so. And it's just gone from bad to worse. So I'm not saying that we should just completely give up, but I can completely understand why a legitimate candidate would look at that and say, I don't want to be a sacrificial lamb, or I don't want to kind of be out there to make a point. And the problem is, without that person out there, the balance in at least the debate is lost. So it's a real catch-22.
You're talking about people like Kenny Smith, Edwin Peacock, who've run good races in the past years. As an outsider looking in, does it frustrate you that Republicans can't put up more candidates here in Charlotte?
Yeah, what's it like from the outside looking into this?
Well, Ben, as a former MEC GOP chairman, I know that recruitment activities are always ongoing. I'm hopeful that there'll be some additional filings, but I think the Republican Party is in the midst, in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, in the midst of a rebuild. And I'm encouraged by both our county leadership, our current elected officials in the county. I'm also encouraged by what we've done at a state level. We've just elected a very solid chairman in Michael Watley and newly announced executive director Jonathan Sink, who lives in Raleigh but has Charlotte ties as a Charlotte native. I think the party is in the midst of a rebuild, and our message is strong. Our ideals connect with the voters here. We just have to find the right candidates to get that out.
I'm curious, especially on your take on this, in that the city's a little bit divided on the Republican side. Half the folks, I don't know half, but some are saying, I understand we're in a rebuild, and let's not, crank up the Democrat machine by putting folks up when we don't have to. And the other half is saying, what's going on? Put people out there. Why aren't you running? From the outside, I mean, do you have a take on that?
No, I always take the position that we need to give voters a choice. And if we can find competent candidates, we need to field them and put them in the races.
As far as how many Republicans that you are aware of that are running or may be running?
So there's myself, and then in District 7, 2, Victoria and Ed, and then Brandon Pierce is running in a district as well. And then right now, I'm personally working on recruiting a couple people at large. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I mean, and then the David Rice dude. Yeah.
As the Democrat now at the table,
you're getting to bask
in the glow of this.
Well, it's certainly good for the Democratic Party in Charlotte, and I am pleased with how Charlotte's going. But again, I agree with these gentlemen too. Like, it is good to have choice. It is good to have these debates. And what the Republicans are facing in Charlotte now, it's really similar to what the Democrats are facing all over North Carolina with rural areas. And one of the reasons we were so successful last year in 2018 was we were able to get candidates in every single district. And I think that made Republicans better and it made Democrats better. And so I think having that balance in Charlotte also is important. I am glad that Mayor Lyles is running for re-election. I think she's done a magnificent job. I also agree that I think it is a extremely uphill battle to defeat her this year. And so if I was a Republican, it would be tough to jump in there because, again, I thought Kenny ran one of the best races I've ever seen.
So we got the Wesley Harris 2017 for the Republican
side. Not quite. But it's tough. But it's one of the things that both parties have to come to make sure that our state reflects the fact that we are a pretty moderate 50-50 state, and we need politics that represents that.
Well, and just a breakdown of the numbers in Charlotte, 50% of registered voters are Democrats, I think, followed by 20% Republican, 30% unaffiliated. So Republicans are actually third when it comes to registration, I think, here in the city. Do you support Mayor Lyles for re-election?
I mean, that's a terrible question to ask somebody, but I'm not going to endorse, and clearly she doesn't want my endorsement, but she's been, I have no complaints working with her. She has gone out of her way to ask me and Ed questions and make sure we're comfortable, to give us leadership positions. I mean, she in a time period where Charlotte wasn't like that in leadership for a while, I got to tell you, she was a breath of fresh air, and I can't do anything but give her kudos for that.
I don't think anybody can knock you for saying that. That's
well, we'll see.
I'm sure you'll get it. Check Twitter in a couple days. This week, CMPD and city leaders took some time out to talk about what we've talked about here for several weeks now, the growing crime rate here in the Queen City. Statistics in the city pretty shocking. At the time of this taping, number of homicides currently up to this point 61 compared to 58 of all of last year. The chief, Kurt Putney, says it's a community health issue at this point. City leaders are calling on parents in the community to find better ways to resolve conflicts.
If we're not investing in staying involved in young people, we're going to continue to talk about numbers that represent the devastation to families.
Yeah, it makes a good point. These are just numbers on the screen, but there also happen to be people. One day after the crime meeting, a man accused of going into Steak and Shake on South Boulevard trying to rob the place. Instead, the man is accused of shooting and killing an employee, Darnell Harris. A Pineville police officer shot the suspect. A customer inside was also shot and taken to the hospital. And Tark, you actually have sort of stepped in and gotten involved in this. Yeah,
I mean, it's been a very frustrating and trying week, I think, for a lot of folks in the city. I think 18 hours after the chief and the district attorney sat and spoke with us in city council this week about violent repeat offenders being back on the streets and murders, 60 people having lost their lives because of it, and then 18 hours later, this happens by a violent repeat offender. Darnell Harris comes to the defense of his co-workers at Steak and Shake and loses his life because of it. I mean, it's just beyond frustrating. We were just talking about it. We know about it. It's not like we're going to fix the problem overnight, but where's the outrage and the passion that this city has shown when it's time to do the quarter-cent sales tax for the arts or do the noise buffer or whatever the topic is? Where's that passion when it's 61 homicides that we're facing to go fix the problem? Because when we get passionate about things, we fix things. And then secondly, that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around, I'm not trying to be insensitive about it, but where's the outrage from the community that jumps up when, if CMPD had killed this suspect with a rap sheet this long, that they would be doing drum circles and having candle vigils out there. But now, because it's Darnell and he is the storyline and the one who lost his life, crickets, nobody. And that's why a lot of us said, you know what, if they're not going to do it, we'll be confused, but we'll step up and do it ourselves. And it's just beyond frustrating for me.
I agree, it is frustrating. It's one of the most frustrating things because I know Charlotte's better than that. And I agree with you. It is about passion. It's about getting people involved. And I think with Charlotte, one of the problems that we have is it seems so distant. Charlotte is one of the most economically and racially segregated cities in the entire country. And so we see these things happening. We see these numbers on a page, but it doesn't seem like it hits home to us. Again, this Steak and Shake was in your district. It was right beside my district. And so that brings it a little closer to home. But again, I think that's what a key driver is, that people don't see that it's really impacting their lives. And I think that's what's causing a lot of the lack of outrage. And we have to make sure that we focus on that, because we are one Charlotte. It has to be a citywide solution, and the entire city has to get together to put a stop to this.
Real quickly, I want to get you have a GoFundMe.
Yeah, if you go to the GoFundMe, Doug Lebda, the CEO of Lending Tree, one of his employees was actually at the Steak and Shake, and he was he made it out with his family safely. But Doug called me and was like, "What can we do?" And I said, "Let's do a GoFundMe for Darnell Harris's family, and you can go on GoFundMe and search under Darnell Harris."
All right, more Flashpoint after this.